Hi, welcome to the Bathtub. It's me, Scott Bradfield, the old masturbator, as I'm known in China, Pao Zhao Jiao Shou, foamy bathtub professor. It's a highly esteemed foamy bathtub professor. I'm pretty sure that highly esteemed work is in there somewhere, because there's nothing more estimable to ancient Chinese people than ancient Chinese masturbators. A lot of people don't know this. Anyway, we try to bring some knowledge to you, cross-cultural experience. We're entering a new phase. We've talked to you about this. Some people think of it as the Bernie T-shirt phase. It's also known as the bathing with a vengeance. We're going to bathing with a vengeance. As you know, if you followed this history of this pointless, totally wasted time show we've been doing for many decades. You know, it started off as a USO show with Bob Hope. We were entertaining the troops. It became a radio show in Fresno, California. And then it entered into its high-tech phase. We had a high-tech phase. Now we had a post-tech phase. We've got the post-tech non-pixelated phase. But now it's bathing with a vengeance. We're going to bathe like hell, no matter what the hell happens to the world, and always know where our passport is. That's our other important thing here at the Bathtub. If we're going to read pointlessly, always know where your passport is. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit. I've kind of been putting this off. I got a few things I want to do, several of these very quick, because we're gearing up for the 11th annual Christmas Bathtacular here at the Bathtub, and it's very exciting. I know everyone at home gets excited. All your Granny and the kids are going to be coming in. Everyone's going to be excited. We have the Bathtacular. I'm going to put the Santa hat on. All sorts of things will be happening. We'll have the Pismo Beach prop department. I'm going to bring them out of exile. They're going to come up here with some bath-tabulous special effects. No whiteboard. We dumped the whiteboard years ago. Anyway, today I wanted to do a few of these very quickly. One I've kind of put off because it almost feels like I'm lecturing, and I really don't want to be lecturing on this. But we're going to talk a little bit about taking John Milton's Paradise Lost into the bathtub. It's not the first thing you think about when you go to the bathtub. Is I want to read an epic poem in blank verse by John Milton, filled with references to the Restoration and the English Revolution, and all that stuff. And I just really want to read that. Most people wouldn't do that, but I have to say I'm a big fan. I love John Milton. I read him in college, thinking he was going to be really boring, and I remember just really enjoying everything I read of John Milton's. His poetry just seems to be just so rich and so filled with language, filled with beautiful language. I don't know what else to say. I'm not a poetry teacher, except I do really like to read Milton. And I also enjoyed reading about him as a grad student and as an undergrad. And since then, I have to say the thing about people like Milton is you can read him recreationally. So you can read Paradise Lost just for the language and some of the incredible visual nightmare, phantasmagoria. I just use that guy's Trevor's magazine. The phantasmagoria of this incredibly beautiful, rich, hyper-imagined, nightmarish world, nightmarish/beautiful world of the Satan versus God and trying to corrupt the beauty of Adam and Eve and so forth. But at the same time, it's hard to just read it and put it down because there's so much in it. You really want to be researching it. So every time I read him, I feel a little disappointed that I don't have really my life to devote. He's one of the few writers I would like to devote long periods of time to. And I spent several months rereading about Milton, and in order to do a piece, a very short piece actually, called What in Me is Dark, Orlando Reed, The Revolutionary Life of Paradise Lost. I'll put a link to that when that comes out. I'll publish this. I'll post this video, and I'll publish a link to this. It's very short. It's an interesting book. It's a young. I don't want to say he was an academic, critical writer who writes about the history of how people received, how different people have read Paradise Lost. Almost said Revolutionary Road. Paradise Lost over the decades, from everyone from the most famous, of course, would be the Romantic poets like William Wordsworth and Blake and Shelley. All these people were very interested in Milton, not just as a piece for the poetry, but for the political and the social argumentation of his work and the revolutionary quality. He is probably the most radical writer ever taught in university. He was very radical at his time, and he influenced a lot of people. So this goes all the way from them to Malcolm X to Jordan Peterson, and then the best part of it is the part I'm a little disappointed. Well, I'm a bit disappointed, but is this the frame of the book is about the author teaching Paradise Lost in prisons in the East Coast of America. He was teaching in prisons for a while, and he taught it. And those are the most interesting parts of the book. I kind of wish there had been more of that. Anyway, it just gave me an excuse to go back and read this incredible poem. I don't even know, honestly, where to start. I'm probably going to read a passage or two very briefly, just to give you a sense of it. Where was that? I've already lost the passage I wanted to read to you, because that's how really, really terrible we are at this place. But I'll just read this, just a little passage, just to give you a sense. So, blank verse, iambic pentameter. Don't quote me on anything about poetry or the history of poetry, but it's da 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 da. There's no rhymes, but the richness of the actual, just every phrase, every word, and then the rhythms are just invested in it, and it shifts. The rhythms will shift here and there. I won't be able to catch all the right shifts, but at the same time, let me just read a little passage. It starts off, when you read this book, you think, oh, I'm going to be bored. It's going to be really boring. It's academic. The whole first chapter is about the aftermath of this huge battle between Satan and God. And they tell the whole story of the battle later in the book. But all the demons and Satan have been thrown down into hell, and they're on some burning lake or some sort of place. And all the demons are down, and they've just been completely beaten the crap out of them. And this is just a little touch of Satan looking up around him and thinking. And Satan is a great character. Is this the region, this the soil, the clime, said then the lost archangel, this the seat that we must change for heaven, this mournful gloom for that celestial light? He's saying, do we have to live here instead of where we were? Be it so, since he who now is sovereign can dispose and bid what shall be right, farthest from him is best, whom reason hath equaled, force hath made supreme above his equals. Farewell, happy fields, where joy forever dwells. Hail, horrors, hail, infernal world, and thou, profoundest hell, receive thy new possessor, me, Satan. He's just an incredible character. The most famous line, of course, about Milton is William Blake saying he was of the devil's party without knowing it, which is very interesting in a way. He was saying that all the most beautiful and most incredible passages in Paradise Lost are the things with Satan and with the hell. And when you get into the heaven and Eden passages, I have to say, I just get a little bored. You just miss Satan. He's just so powerful. All the rest of the poem sort of fades away. I think if I had the time to spend with it, I could see there's wonderful poetry all through this incredible piece of work. But at the same time, it's always when Satan comes on stage, you wake up. He's the J.R. Ewing of great literature. No one cares about the good guys. They want the bad guy to show up, and when he shows up, everything is exciting. It reminded me a little bit. I went back and reread one of my favorite cultural history. If you want to read some backgrounds on Milton, Christopher Hill's Milton and the English Revolution. I read this in high school. It's pretty beat up. It's I've talked about it before. It's one of my favorite books about literature, and it's about Milton's place in the English Revolution and he wrote all these political works for all sorts of things, such as supporting divorce at a time when you weren't supposed to, and advocating for basically the chop off the king's head. He said all sorts of things that were at the time put himself in very grave danger after the Restoration, after they brought back the aristocracy, the king, and almost went to prison. He had a really fascinating life, and has divided critics and historians. But this is a great book about all the turmoil, all the political and religious controversies going on at the time of Milton's work. And if you want to read it, I really enjoyed that a lot. But at one point, I couldn't find the quote. At one point, he mentions the famous Blake quote: "Milton was of of the devil's party without knowing it. And he said, actually, he did know a little. He knew he was. He supported the revolution, the notion of the revolution in Satan, though not entirely. Okay, there's a couple other books I just put here. I enjoyed these. I didn't get a chance to reread these. Stanley E. Fish has all sorts of admirers and detractors, and he's known for, is it reader response? I forget. I read this in grad school and I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed Anne Ferry's Milton's epic voice, neither of which I got a chance to reread again. Anyway, I don't want to go on too far. I'm going to read one last little passage, and I think, again, at Christmas, you're looking for some big reading project or something to enjoy. It shouldn't be a project of just studying, but if you just want to read something out loud, it's extraordinary. That's one of the things I am disappointed by. I wanted to sit down and just reread all of this book out loud a couple of times, because you cannot read a line without hearing this incredible, beautiful richness. This is a passage that I don't know my Bible at all. I never studied the Bible, and I don't care. I'm not interested in studying the Bible. But at the same time, there's a whole story in here, and some of which seems to be invented by Milton. And this is after there's the second book of Paradise Lost is Satan and all the demons talking about what they're going to do next and how they're going to get back up into heaven and teach God a lesson, go after him. They're just totally vicious, mean. It's a nest of vipers. And on his way, Satan decides he's going to go to Earth and Eden, that God has created to make it this beautiful place, and he's going to spoil it. He wants to get back at God. And when he goes there, he meets this monstrous creature, this woman, half woman, half snake, and she's surrounded by wild dogs and by this dark presence, which is death. And I can't read the whole passage. I just want to read a little passage of meeting this woman at the gate to leave hell to go to earth, and this vast space between hell and earth. And she's the portress of the gate. Hast thou forgot me then? And Satan has forgotten who she is. And do I seem now in thine eye so foul, once deemed so fair? In heaven, when at the assembly, and in sight of all the seraphim, with thee combined in bold conspiracy against heaven's king. All on a sudden, miserable pain surprised thee, dim thine eyes, and dizzy swum in darkness, while thy head flames, thick and fast, threw forth, till on the left side opening wide, likest to thee in shape and countenance bright, then shining heavenly fair, a goddess armed, out of thy head I sprung. Amazement seized all the host of heaven back, and they recoiled afraid at first, and called me sin. I honestly think that even someone who's not a professional reader and not a particularly good reader, you can't read the passages without just wanting to carry on. And just to give you a little taste, she describes how that basically then she's raped by Satan, and they produce this monstrous offspring. It is incredible. It is a fantasy epic. It is an incredible piece of prose, of poetry and prose and language and imagination. So anyway, that's my pitch. I really enjoyed reading it. My biggest disappointment is just I just don't have. I wish if I was on a boat somewhere and I had my 10 desert island books, I would bring this and probably the Christopher Hill book to accompany it and just read it forever. Anyway, there you go. I'm not going to read it forever. I'm going to move on to some other books. Stay safe. Milton in the Bathtub. This is a sui generis episode, not any part of any theme show. It's just an incredible piece of work. All right. Not the video, but the book. Bye.